July 31st, 1941. In the depths of World War II, Corporal Ron Barassi of Australia's 7th Division is killed in action at Tobruk in northern Africa. Thousands of miles away, a bereaved wife and mother is consoled in writing by the Melbourne Football Club, the club her husband played for. Among the condolences, a promise that guarding the welfare of her and her young son, Ronald Jr., would become the sacred duty of the Demons.
Barassi hand passes beautifully to Dixon. Great combination here. Barassi coming up. Gets a great hand from the supporters.
This is one of the most thrilling finals we have ever seen.
No matter whom I play for, I give everything for that, for the Guernsey. Whether it be Melbourne, whether it be Carlton, whether it be Menangatang Thirds.
In typical Storming fashion, Barassi warns Carlton against complacency. He knows every facet of grand final football, having participated in 8 as a player.
The siren, and Carlton win the flag by 3 points. Barassi's worries are over. They've won Carlton's first flag in 21 years.
So join in the chorus, sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the wall. Good old North Melbourne, except your children green. North Melbourne will be premiers in 1980.
Part of the job of a coach is to teach. I'll be doing that. A disappointing result, and I just hope the Melbourne supporters in the future band even more strong together and hang in there.
The shock announcement that the new coach of the Sydney Swans is Ron Barassi.
The great Ronald Dale Barassi celebrates 50 years in football this year and next year, and on February 15 next year at the Telstra Dome there'll be a special night to celebrate. 5,000 people, everyone is invited to this night, and we'll go into more details a little bit later on. It's going to be a fantastic night to celebrate 50 years of the most celebrated man in AFL football. Just before we introduce Ronald Dale Barassi onto the Footy Show set, just quickly to run through. I know we talk about 5 times day and 5 times night for Dermot and all the rest of it. Have a listen to this quickly. 2 times Melbourne best and fairest, 6-time Melbourne premiership player, twice as captain. Captain between 60 and 64. Carlton captain coach 65 to 68. Played in 23 finals, 73 career Brownlows. 3-time All-Australian, once as captain. Represented Victoria 19 times. Captain of Melbourne's team of the century. Member of the Hall of Fame legends. As a coach, 2-time Carlton premiership coach. Carlton coach of the century. 2-time North Melbourne premiership coach, including their first ever premiership in 75 and 77. Barassi is so good you don't even worry about the night grand finals. He coached Carlton, North Melbourne, Melbourne and Sydney for a total of 23 years. He's still a board member of the Sydney Swans. He's been a superstar in the media over all those years, and Ron Barassi has been involved in a combination total of 17 grand finals for 10 premiership successes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our great pleasure tonight to welcome a true legend of the game, Mr. Ron Barassi.
Ron, Ed mentioned you've been involved in 17 grand finals for 10 victories, and you're proud of that because whenever you sign your name, you sign it 17410.
Well, what do you get if you add 17 and 4 and 10?
17 and 4 and 10, well, you'd get 31, Ron.
Yeah.
And that's your number.
Yeah, but that's only coincidental. It's got nothing to do with it.
Now,
there's a bit of a story behind that. I saw Tony Lockett start to sign his goals in his autograph. He also had his Guernsey number, and he signed 1,330 goals, whatever it was. And it was funny, about a month ago he saw me sign an autograph, and I signed a number because I decided, well, that's a very good idea about an autograph. An autograph should be something more than just a scribble, because often I see an autograph and I say to the kid, who's that? And they look and they don't know. I don't see what the point of signing an autograph like that is, or the kid not knowing who it is. Anyway, so I put something to do with my career, 17 grand finals, etc. And Tony saw me do this about a month ago, and he said, "What's that figure, Brass?" And I told him, I said, "I copied you." And he said, "I don't do that anymore." So I don't know why.
Ron, 50 years in football.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, in the 70s, when you used to write for The Sun, you were talking then about football had to go to Sydney. And here we are all these years later on, and you're a director, a former coach of the side and the club, and football's doing very well in Sydney compared to those days in the 70s. But all the way through, gee, it's changed an awful lot, hasn't it? Or has it?
The basics haven't. Still get the ball first, do the best thing with it second, sort of thing. But yeah, it has changed a lot. But you tell me something that hasn't. Everything has, really, when you think about it.
So, apropos to that, what were your favourite days? You've been at 4 clubs and left a great mark on all of them. What were your favourite days?
I've had one of the best lives in football, I think. I mean, as a player to play in 8 grand finals and get 6 premierships, this would make you jealous, Sam, because I know you love your footy and you wanted to play in a grand final as premiers, and it.
Be good if we get the World Cup soccer. That'd be great.
Well, that's another story altogether. But I can see the way you're pretty tuned up about that, and that just proves to us people in Melbourne here, particularly, and in Australian football, that you do love your footy, which is fantastic. But no, so therefore, as a player, it was just great at Melbourne. Carlton was excellent to me and for me, and the North Melbourne 7 years was fabulous. They was a great mob to be with.
Now, these men are going to carry on your great tradition, and before Nathan asks you a question, could I just ask you this? You never appear to me as though you seem keen to get back to your original club, Melbourne. You don't have any great desire to go back there and finish off a stellar career in football as a player, coach and committeeman?
Well, I went back to Melbourne for 5 years as a coach in a 25-year plan, but I only did 1/5 of it. Yeah. That didn't quite work out. I would have loved to have succeeded there as a coach. We did do a lot of improvement there, I felt, and it was felt, but wasn't quite the success we were looking for. But when I finish at the Swans, that'll be it for football, for me. Right. Because in fact, many years ago I said I'm never going to go till I'm 60 and 70 and all that sort of stuff, but it's worked out that I have. But I won't be going on too much longer, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, Ron, Terry Wallace has always said to me a couple of times that Lee Matthews was the best player he's ever seen, bar none. I was wondering, in all your time in football, who would you rate as the best player you've seen or played with?
Well, I think there's a difference between best and most valuable. Yep. Or most brilliant and most valuable. In fact, I was at a function today, and a fellow called Ron Baggett, who played centre-half forward at the Melbourne Football Club with my father, and he was asked the same question, and he also said words similar to what I've just given you, most brilliant and most valuable. He called most brilliant and best. I put Lee Matthews into the most valuable player I've ever seen. Not the best looking from the point of view of brilliance and skill and speed and all that sort of stuff, some of which are combined in a few players whom you and I could name. But from the point of view of pure value, Lee Matthews, I mean, it's just, you look at his record, it's just fantastic. And he proved himself also in the big games, which I think's got to be a mark at that sort of level.
And the best, Ron? Who's the most valuable? Who's the most best, stylish? You know,
you've got to go for sort of
the man you took from the field for kicking a goal.
Cable, Blight, Jezelenko, Dool, Flower, Greg. I mean,
they're reasonable sort of players, those.
Yeah. Your guy might get in there too. He's pretty good.
Nathan Buckley.
Could I ask you this, Ron? Did you get a bigger shock when Norm Smith was sacked as coach, or Malcolm Blight of St Kilda last year?
Norm Smith. I
tell you what, Malcolm Blight's...
It was a big one, yeah, I know. And I think he's just getting over it now, what's it, a year later?
And of course, Norm Smith was your great mentor and just taught you everything there was to know about life, maybe, as well as football, Ron.
Oh, I had a very good teacher in my mother in life, but also he got hold of me when I was just before I was 17 and lived at his house. It's a very good way of getting a game, live with a coach. He was a magnificent man to be a mentor, there's no doubt about that. And
we showed a couple of weeks ago some vision of Norm Smith after he'd been sacked originally from Melbourne. How long do you reckon it took Melbourne to get over the sacking of Norm Smith? Or have they?
I'm not sure they have. Of course they have, because it's so long ago now, and there aren't too many people of influence in and around the club who remember that time well or involved in it in any way. So yes, of course it has passed, but I reckon it took them 20 years to get over it, you know. It was very, very sad and completely unnecessary, and I thought it was a case of fat cat disease.
And Carlton at the moment? Do you
I don't think that's fat cat disease, because it's a whole different thing. I mean, Melbourne just fell. They were premiers one year and haven't been in a grand final except twice since, in, what's that, 40 years or 30 odd years. I mean, Carlton were a top team only 2 or 3 years ago, so it's a vastly different thing.
Do you think they'll quickly turn it around, knowing the culture of that club?
Yes.
Do you think you're an intelligent man, Ron?
Reasonably. I don't think I'm a genius.
No, football-wise, you must have... did you have a definite plan, or was it just purely on emotion and off the top of your head as the time seemed appropriate?
I played. I winged it. I did wing it a lot. There's no doubt about that. And I think football's a game where, even as a player, you have to wing it a lot. Because certain instances or circumstances come up in football, as you know, and in a split second you've got to solve the problem. So it is an instinctive game, and I think coaching to a degree is instinctive. You've got to play with a gut feel a little bit, particularly on positional moves on match day. But apart from that, I try to figure out a lot of things. And I had the best background in football, and I only fluked on it, as in I was born into the Melbourne Football Club, so therefore I become involved with Norm Smith. So I'm coached for 12 years with the coach of the century in the whole country, the AFL coach of the century. I went to work with Len Smith for 7 years, and to me he's the father of modern football. And both of those blokes, particularly Norm, was coached by a wily old fellow who coached 5 premierships, a fellow called Checker Hughes, who coached Richmond to, I think, 1 and Melbourne 4. So the lineage, and I can remember a couple of years off from when I became a coach, I didn't want to be a coach. I saw Norm Smith being hassled by a committee at Melbourne, and here he is, the best coach in Australia, and he's getting a hard time. So I thought, who would want to be a coach? I mean, it's stupid. But of course, when people start talking about becoming a coach, well, adrenaline takes over, and away it all happened.
Ron, one final one just before we have a look at some of your old teams, who they play this weekend. I read during the week Mike Sheen did a whole series in the Herald Sun, which was fantastic to read over.
His check is in the mail, Mike.
No, he did a fantastic stuff the last 3 or 4 days in the Herald Sun. You said there that you now feel the loss of your father at the age you are now, which is 66, more than you did when you were maybe 5 or 6 years of age. Yeah, I do. I suppose that when you're an adult, things mean more to you, because you know what, a lot more than a kid of 5 or 6. Kids that age would get through it, I won't say easily, not at the time, but breeze through it compared with a person later on. I do feel that way. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe I didn't cry enough. I don't know. Yeah. Is there anything that sticks out for you that you feel that you missed? I mean, the obvious things are there, but what's the one thing that really tugs at your heartstrings now? Just my father, and my mother died at a young age of 62, and I mean, she was quite a woman, my mother. Yeah. She was. But I've been surrounded by very good people in my work life and football life and media life. Good on you, lad.
This is the man who broke my nose down at Geelong.
Did he? He belted, did he?
The second year I was playing. Yeah.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No, he backhanded me and broke it.
Did I?
I've told you that plenty of times. You said, yes, I remember it well.
Gee, it's a fairly big club, that one, these days, Ron. But anyway.
Everybody wanted to break Sam's nose.
Everybody has. Trev.
Well, Ron, there's some talk about calling the Premiership Cup the Ron Barassi Cup. I think that's a great idea. Personally, I think we should call it something before it turns out to be the Eddie Maguire Cup.
I wouldn't mind getting hold of 10 of them.
We can't let that happen.
We can't, mate.
We can't let him get hold of it.
Although they're going to...
You still hate Collingwood, don't you?
No.
Yes, you do.
No. I'm really mellow. I've gone really soft.
Have you?
Yeah. I just sort of... I just got a distaste for them.
Let's move on. We'll be here till the Today Show otherwise. Ron, we're going to get you to look at some of your old sides here. West Coast isn't one of them, but Melbourne certainly is. Let's have a look at West Coast and Melbourne. Sunday afternoon at Subiaco. Melbourne travel well, but do they travel this well? Because Peter Matera, Pryor, Embley and Carroll are in. Richard Taylor has been omitted from the side. That lost to the Bulldogs last week by 51 points at Optus Oval. That's the old gag about they're like Guinness, aren't they? They just don't travel. The West Coast Eagles, but at home they are deadly, just as Fremantle is as well. Let's have a look at Melbourne. And the Melbourne side, 9 wins and 9 losses. They're in 9th position. 9-9-9. There you go. Stephen Powell, Ross Funk, Luke Williams, Stephen Phoebe comes in. Good to see Phoebes back in for the Demons. Troy Broadbridge, unfortunately, did his knee, is out for the rest of the season. They were beaten by 5 points and, well, they should only put their hand out for about a fifth of their pay because that's all that they played, really, Richo, wasn't it? They turned it on and nearly got you.
Yeah, I think we were 46 points up with about 15 minutes to play and they nearly got us, but we managed to get there, so it was good for us, bad for them, I guess, and I think it'll be hard for them going over to West Coast this week. They obviously haven't lost a game at home, and I think they'll win again this week.
The Coasters, quick tips.
Yeah, West Coast at home.
West Coast for me.
All right, Ron, West Coast and Melbourne.
I couldn't go for anyone else but Melbourne.
Fair enough.
Ron, he's the man of the moment. Would you have Wayne Carey in a side that you coached?
I've got nothing to do with it, even though I've been on the board.
Even though he's in Sydney as we speak?
Yes, but personally I would, yes. So in fact, I said right after the incident, I said it'll all blow over, cool down, etc., and people will be back to being their normal professional selves. Why wouldn't you want a great player? I mean, the one question would be, of course, physically, is he okay physically? But you'd have doctors and physios check that out, I would think.
But the other business is incidental.
No, it's not incidental, but you've got to move on from those sort of things, Sam.
All right, let's have a look at the next game, and it is the Kangaroos in Sydney. This will test you out. Ron, you have to tip somebody here. John Blakey is in, and Shane Clayton has been omitted from the Kangaroos side, who are in 7th position. They need 2 more wins, at least 2, to make it. And the Kangaroos' run home is this game against Sydney, Carlton at Colonial, Hawthorn at the MCG and West Coast at Monaco. So it's a reasonable run for the Kangaroos if they can get over Sydney this week. All right, let's look at the Sydney Swans. And the changes here, Shawball in with Brockman, Mott and Nix have both been omitted. So Matthew Nix out of the side for the Sydney Swans, which is no good for him, obviously, but also he's a pretty good player when he is going. So it's disappointing that his form has seen him be omitted. Boys, a quick tip here and we'll get Ron's thoughts.
Yeah, Kangaroos for me.
Yeah, North Melbourne.
Yep, 3 for Kangaroos.
And this game at the SCG, a Kangaroos home game.
Well, they're in form, aren't they? I mean, they have done a marvellous job this year, you've got to say that. And the Swannies have been very up and down. Form indicates the Kangas, but I'm going for the Swans.
Oh, no, the Kangaroos.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Kangaroos beat Geelong up and they'll beat the Swans up.
All right, and if they do that, they will look like they could well make the finals too. A great effort for the Kangaroos. Ron Barassi's 50-year legend tribute dinner. What about this? February 15th. Put it in your diary, all football fans. Now, it's $140 per head now. The reason why it is so affordable, and this is for a... No, don't laugh. 140. Most of these nights are $500,000 a head. It has been put at Colonial deliberately for people to be able to come. The money isn't going to anyone's pocket. The money will go to Legacy, Ron's favourite charity. And a whole group of people have got behind this, led by Ron Joseph, and Athol Hodgetts is doing all the bookings and things like this. Ross Oakley is also involved, and you can call those numbers. Now, we need sponsors for this, and I'll give you a tip if you're a sponsor out there, because what it'll do, it is going to underwrite the football supporters being able to come to the dinner. So rather than charging $1,000 a head, it's going to be open slated for 5,000 people to be able to come along. So sponsors can get involved by ringing Athol Hodgetts and or give Channel 9 a ring tomorrow, and we'll give you the number for Athol Hodgetts. But the thing about this also, we're very proud to announce that the 9 Network have been involved, and we will be doing a special tribute for those people who can't get there. We'll be doing a special television special on the life and times of the great Ron Barassi, and we know that Ron's had a tremendous association with the 7 Network over the years, but I think we're all going to put down the guns for 5 minutes and just do a real tribute, because the money going to legacy is significant as well. But also I think the fact that the organisers, instead of trying to squeeze every dollar out of this, of trying to make it as open as possible for as many people to come to one of the great nights of football, I think this will be just one of the greatest nights.
Yep.
It will be. It'll be fantastic.
From what I understand, because these guys are all mates of mine, and every time I ask, they say, "Shut up, Ron, we're looking out of it. Just shut up. Just keep out of it." You know, so I've kept out of it, but I do know they're going to put on a fantastic show, and these guys are not in the business, but they're that close to it. They know all the angles. They'll have a fantastic night. I've got no doubt about that.
I can tell you, it's going to be a ripping night.
And also, I did work here for 2 years with the kids' show.
You did too, didn't you?
Yeah.
And at Channel 10.
And at Channel 10, yeah.
And one of the greatest
And at Channel 2.
You've been through more stations than the Southern Aurora, Ron.
And one of the greatest accolades you can get, Ron, is me giving you my... unlike Matthews, never heard one of them, you would know every one of those, so I want you to take that, and I want you to play that in front of whoever, and Ron, you'll have a sensational night.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. And I can back up Sam's words, because I have been out with him at times after midnight.
Why did I start this?
He didn't have a crack at you, did he, Ron?
Oh, he's not that way.
No.
You haven't changed, have you?
Well, a little bit, but not to the full extent yet, Ron. The way I'm going, I might shortly.